Oh, good evening, AWS friends. This is I believe, the 53rd AWS User Group UK. Obviously, a bunch of those were in person. These have been online for some amount of time. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. Welcome, glad you can join us. I hope you've got your warm beer and cold pizza in order to give yourself the absolute pinnacle of accurate meetup catering. That's kind of how those things go. If you're live on, if you're logged into Twitch and you've got the chat room open, why don't you say hello? Tell us who you are, where you're from. Currently at, I think, 9 viewers. I'm hoping that number's going to go up. Otherwise, this is going to be quite an intimate, event. Let's pop these slides up. Tell us where you are. Let's see where our furthest afield viewer is. I think we've had folks from New Zealand before, which is quite a way away. I don't know if we've got any Kiwis with us this evening. Let's see if you're there. Andrew from Bournemouth. Yeah, hello, Andrew from Bournemouth. I'm pretty sure that's my colleague, Andrew from Bournemouth. Not quite as far away as New Zealand, but Bournemouth will do as well. Anybody else want to chime in with where they're from, or are you all just lurking? That's the real question. Southend, there we go. All fairly local. I say local since we last did this. That eagle-eyed viewers will know that my background used to look rather different from this when I did the last few of these. I've moved to Leeds in the last. I think I've been here 2 weeks or so now. So fully sort of taking the user group to the UK as a whole, as opposed to just in London. And I have my own room with kind of, I guess, a studio setup now, whereas I was previously doing this from my living room, so I'm generally improved on that. You'll also notice that another meetup, another set of swag. This is an Ambassador Global Summit hoodie that arrived in the post to my old address, obviously, because I foolishly typed the wrong address into the form when I was ordering it and had to pick it up from London last weekend. But it is also fairly warm, so I'm going to take it off. It is too hot in here. This is a very well insulated flat compared to my old one, which was very, very cold. Let's apparently getting electric shocks off of things now. Since we were last here, let's have a little look at what's happened in the AWS landscape since we last held a meetup. We at the Scale Factory we run a load of RSS feeds into our Slack. One of those is the AWS What's New feed, and so we kind of have a look at what's coming down the pipe, and we stick an emoji on the ones that are interesting. So when I'm doing this, I go back and look over the last couple of months and have a look at the things that seemed interesting to the team, because they're typically the things that I find interesting as well. So first up, AWS CloudFormation hooks. This will let you invoke custom logic prior to the operation of a update, delete, or apply for CloudFormation. So you can use that to validate data or put guardrails around stuff and protect your infrastructure from bad CloudFormation. Essentially, pretty handy. Step functions local, which is a runtime for debugging and testing state machine workflows. If you're using step functions and you're familiar with those, you can now support service mocking, so you can run a local version of step functions in order to test your step function logic, and that can now test as though you were talking to a downstream service without actually doing that, which is pretty handy. Secrets Manager now supports rotation windows, so you can now schedule the rotation of your secrets within particular time windows during the week or through the month. I think similar to the way that you would with RDS when you set your maintenance window for RDS, you can say, actually, I want to rotate my secrets in this particular window here. This is all pretty handy. S3 batch replication for syncing existing data between buckets. Now, we've had the ability to sync newly changed objects between S3 buckets before now, really useful for things like cross-regional replication and other kind of backup scenarios. You can now sync existing data from a bucket into another bucket for operational reasons, which is quite handy. And also AWS backup for S3 is now in general availability, so you'll probably find that useful if you are thinking about backing up your S3 buckets. There are plenty of good reasons to be doing that, even though S3 is extremely durable. Cross-regional backups is a thing that comes to mind. Backing up into another account, so that if your S3 buckets are compromised, or your accounts with those S3 buckets in are compromised, they don't also compromise your backups, that sort of thing. We also have now the EC2 image recycle bin, so if you've accidentally deleted an AMI for your EC2 hosts, then you can now go back and undo that within a certain period of time. I think you can specify the retention period for that as well. Interesting. Other things that looked interesting to me in the last couple of months, metrics for AWS Private Link. So you can now get CloudWatch metrics about throughput and number of connections and that sort of thing from your private link connections, which no doubt makes operations much easier. And I guess potentially allows you to do things like if you're using Private Link to expose per tenant services to SaaS consumers, you might be able to use those metrics as a billing mechanism or as a billing dimension, I suppose, for your SaaS customers. So might be worth looking at. Private Link's pretty cool. If you haven't looked into Private Link, it's worth a look. And also over time, AWS are allowing more and more services to be exposed or exposable over Private Link, including as of the last couple of months, Incident Manager, Elasticache, Amazon Forecast, Elemental Media Connect, and AWS Backup. So all kind of useful stuff there. We've got the usual set of new DB versions available for RDS and Aurora. So Postgres 14 is now supported in RDS, and MariaDB 10.6, and a load of kind of minor version support for those for MySQL and Postgres in Aurora. And there's now a new multi-availability zone option for RDS, which is optimized for write transactions. It provides you with faster commit latencies. So if you're building a multi-availability zone RDS cluster, and you need that to be quicker at writes than the original, then you can now choose that. There's also launched, and we're going to be hearing about that later today from our second speaker, the AWS Customer Carbon Footprint Tool. Thomas is going to talk us a little bit about that and about making sustainability decisions in general. And there's a whole bunch of other kind of changes around things like organizations and Control Tower, letting you manage alternative contacts on your AWS account, and providing additional guardrails and best practices for as well as kind of region deny if you need to be able to do that. Control Tower stuff is interesting to me and my team because we're doing quite a lot of Control Tower builds at the moment, but maybe not that interesting to you if you're building software yourself. There are some changes to AWS WAF, allowing you to protect against credential stuffing attacks using AWS WAF fraud control, and AWS SSO is now PCI DSS compliant, if that's a thing that you're worried about. EFS can now provide sub-millisecond read latencies, so if you've got a workload that's performance sensitive and you need some kind of shared storage for that, EFS is an option. And EKS on Windows now supports the Containerd runtime in case you are planning on running containers on Windows from your Kubernetes deployment. So that's just a subset of the things that are going on. As usual, there's an absolute shitload of new stuff happening that I haven't mentioned, things that are maybe less interesting to me at least. Maybe they'd be interesting to you. If you're interested in keeping an eye on that stuff, there is as I say, an RSS feed for the AWS What's New blog, and channeling that into Slack is a really good way of keeping on top of that rather than kind of reading it in your RSS reader every day, which is maybe a little bit less interesting. You can, as usual, follow us on our socials. We have a Twitter account. We've got a LinkedIn page in case you're a LinkedIn person, and we have a Discord that we set up earlier this year to allow the user group to chat amongst themselves between events. It's sometimes a little quiet there, but if you'd like to join there and see if you can get a bit more conversation going, that'd be awesome, because it would be nice to see a bit more chat in the community as we go sort of between events. We do have a survey today to fill out, which I'll be sharing this detail at the end of the meetup, so that you can tell us what worked for you, what didn't work for you, make any suggestions about improvements. Your feedback is useful to us. It has changed how we've run the meetup in the past. Newcomers, we've got 25 people on the stream now. It's a little bit more pleasing than the 9 we started with. Hello newcomers, do say hello in the chat, tell us where you're from, maybe tell us what AWS stuff you've been tinkering with today. If you're currently on a warm beer and a cold pizza, why don't you tell us what you're drinking as well? That's always an interesting question for those of us who like beer, at least, which I appreciate not everybody does. We are going to go and hear from our sponsors now. Let's pull up their VT. First of all, we're going to hear from Deloitte.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the AWS user group. My name is Daniel Gould. I'm a senior consultant within Deloitte's cloud engineering practice. I've been with Deloitte for the past 3.5 years. I've had the pleasure of working across a variety of roles, including AWS architect, engineering, product owner, and also a business analyst. But also I'm the head of AWS Learning and Development for our UK consulting practice. Deloitte recognized that so many of the solutions to our client problems involve cloud, and we need to make sure our people have the latest skills and knowledge in order to provide our clients with the best quality solutions. It is great to see so many of you joining this user group virtually and really come together as a community to learn and to celebrate the vast array of technology available via Amazon. I am really passionate about what AWS has to offer and how its technology is being utilized so brilliantly by so many organizations across the globe. Over the past 2 years, it's been a very challenging environment for a lot of organizations, and we've helped so many of them through an incredibly challenging time by enabling them to quickly shift to remote working using solutions such as Amazon Connect, but also move from store to online in a matter of days. Many organizations are continuing to accelerate their cloud strategy and, like us, are hiring rapidly to support this, making the skills of all of us in this community more necessary than ever before. So I encourage you to sit back, relax, and enjoy what are sure to be fantastic talks from Thomas at AWS and then Ray from TUI.
Thank you, Deloitte. Actually, those talks are going to be the other way around this evening. I've switched the order up because I'm mad with power and I can absolutely do that. Some first-time chat from viewer Contact22. That's Satya from London. Hello, Satya. Good to have you on the stream for the first time. And Gurdasani, not a first-timer, but apparently usually in Cambridge, right now in New Delhi. And as Yo-Yo says, I think that probably means that they're leading the distance competition so far. If we've got anybody further away from the UK than in New Delhi, let's hear from you. It'd be good to see whether we can beat that this time around. Our second sponsor this evening, who have a new logo now, is eSynergy, and here's what they have to say for themselves.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending the AWS User Group. A little bit about eSynergy. We are looking to change the way consulting is done through progressive approaches and technology. eSynergy believes in impact consulting, which means we believe all our outcomes should be measurable. We build this into our engagements because it's at the heart of our approach. Understanding how to build the right capabilities to deliver the best outcomes is our speciality, from which technologies and skill sets are needed to the Pacific Build approach. So name a few of our clients. In payments, we work with Apeo, in banking, Northern Trust, in insurance, Marsh, and in government, we work with HMRC and the Crown Prosecution Service. If you'd like to know a little bit more about us, please can you contact us via our website. That's esynergy.co.uk. And I really hope you enjoy tonight.
And thank you to eSynergy. There's something a little bit Blair Witch about that video. It was kind of bouncing around. I usually kind of try and correct for that stuff when I put the video packages together, but I quite like that. It was charming. So thank you, eSynergy. Good to hear from you. And also we are sponsored this evening by Sainsbury's Tech, who provide the space that we would ordinarily be having our in-person meetups in, which obviously we are unable to do right now. As those videos were playing out, the lip sync and the sound looks a little bit off to me. If someone could let me know in the stream chat whether or not that also appeared for you, that would be useful. Because if I start the main videos and the lip sync is out, that's going to be quite annoying. I might see if I can correct that while we're at it. Hello, Luke from Manchester, another first time chat viewer. Good to have you on the stream. We also at the moment are, I guess, as a user group, we're trying to put some emphasis on our inclusivity and diversity, and we put a lot of work into getting underrepresented speakers on our stage. This is important to AWS as well. AWS are running a Women in Tech event on the 24th of March. That's going to be at the Deliveroo offices in London, which are sort of down by the Thames, kind of nearish Embankment, I think. So if you are a woman in tech, particularly an AWS focused woman in tech, then you should definitely check that out. I think allies and men are welcome, but probably less so. So do share this amongst your team if you have women in your team. I think it's important to support the communities that are for underrepresented individuals in our community. I'm trying to, there we go, share the link to that in the Twitch chat as well. We have, as ever, a prize draw today, and this is a draw for Amazon Echoes. I think we have 1 Echo and 2 Echo Dots to give away as usual. I've just shared the link into the Twitch chat as well. If you are entering this, please bear in mind that we can only send these to UK addresses. So if you are from further afield, like I see, we've got someone in Kochi, India right now, although otherwise based in Bournemouth. Is everybody from the UK just gone to India and joining the feed from there? And what's going on? Are you travelling together? What's happening? We've got so much Indian travel going on. Interesting to see. If you want to enter into the prize draw, you do need to be in the UK at a UK address so that we can ship that out from you. Great, we've got some folk from Turkey. Wow, we're very international today. I'm enjoying this. Currently, it's I think 24 viewers according to that screen, but that doesn't sound right. Yeah, good to see you all here. I will be sharing the link to this prize draw again after the first speaker, so that you can catch it there. But do bear in mind that we can only ship those to UK addresses if you are planning on entering. So today we have talks from 2 experienced AWS individuals. So Ray on the right there, he's actually going to be up first. Ray used to be an AWS employee, is now at TUI, and he's going to be talking about how they use Well Architected in order to accelerate the digital transformation at TUI, who are, if you don't know, a travel company, obviously have had a rough couple of years, no doubt. And Tom, after that, will be talking about making directionally correct sustainability decisions for AWS workloads. He's going to introduce the carbon accounting tool that AWS released recently. Right, so I guess without further ado, I'm going to hit the button and you're going to see Ray and his talk.
Hi, my name is Ray, and today I'm going to talk about how we are using AWS Well Architects to accelerate our digital transformation and why you should do it. I am a global enterprise cloud architect holding multiples of AWS certifications. I am also ex-Amazonian, help our clients to migrate a number of workloads into the AWS and also helping the clients on their cloud adoption journeys. But before we go into details about how we're using Well Architecting to help our digital transformation, I would like to give you some more information about who TUI is and the scope and the scale of our challenge, and followed by TUI's cloud journey and how we're going to using Well Architecture to help our digital transformation later. TUI is global organizations. We have our headquarters in Germany. We have a number of products that can offer to our customer. We have 5 airlines spread across 150 aircraft. We have 18 cruise ships and more than 400 hotels that can offer to our customer. We operate in 3 regions: Northern regions, Western regions, and Central regions. Each region they operate and manage their own products. In 2019, we have the program called TRIPS. So TRIPS bring all these products for each region come together in one place. We would like to create the best experience for our customer when they book a holiday with us. And also we would like to consolidate our airline together. And more importantly, we would like to increase our speed to market for our future development. We do all this in AWS. So I would like to show you the short clips of how TRIPS work. And when we come back, we talk about how TUI Cloud Journey is, followed by how we use Well Architects to help our digital transformation.
The travel industry has witnessed some pretty epic changes over the last few decades. No one could have predicted how customers would be interacting with travel brands today, let alone how they would be consuming travel content and booking getaways. TUI is at the forefront of this travel revolution. That's why we've created TUI Trips. You can think of Trips as the engine room of TUI. Its technologies will help position us as a one-stop travel shop that lets holidaymakers customize their own travel plans exactly the way they want. So, whether they want to book a ready-made package, add on extras to their holiday, or maybe arrange an excursion, Trips can make it happen. But if customers just want to book a flight, or perhaps just find somewhere to stay, Trips technologies can let them do that too. Plus, it's been developed with the future in mind, so we can add in other potential tech solutions for things like cruises, tours, car rentals, even train journeys. The possibilities are endless. So, how does it all work? Well, take a closer look and you'll see TUI Trips is powered by different tech solutions. It uses the best of our existing tech solutions, along with some new ones. In essence, Trips combines lots of systems, including product, pricing, selling, yield, payments, customer communications, and customer service, into one single, open travel technology ecosystem. The result? A single scalable travel technology ecosystem that supports all of our different holiday products. And while customers don't actually see the technology behind Trips, they'll benefit from it every time they visit one of our websites, mobile apps, or travel agencies. Thanks to Trips, we'll be able to respond to customers' needs better than ever by providing more products and services from more partners than ever before, as well as increased flexibility and control. And of course, as a business, Trips will enable us to tap into new opportunities, broaden and grow our customer base, and help modernise our brand. Plus, because Trips is a group-wide platform, it'll help us optimise the way we package, price, and yield across all markets. And because it's a common tech solution, when we need to make changes, it'll be a case of change once for everyone, saving us time and money, which is better for our customer and better for TUI. But that's not all. Trips has been built using some of the very latest and greatest technologies on the market, which help us automate some of the ways we work in IT, improving the quality and efficiency of what we build. Not only that, some of these new technologies give us some really clever analytics, enabling us to improve our decision making and respond faster to our ever-changing customer behaviours. And because we've created Trips as a single, global travel platform, we'll be able to learn and grow together through common ways of working. Our partners will also benefit from Trips. It'll make it easier for them to work with us, which in turn will help drive their businesses. It's fair to say that thanks to TUI Trips, it really will be a case of think travel, think TUI.
This is our cloud journey. The orange lines on the diagrams is the standard benchmark from AWS on cloud adoption journeys. Our journeys started in 2017. At that time, we created a program called CMAP, or Cloud Migration Accelerator Program. We have selected one workload to migrate into the cloud. We call it WebStack. We also stand up multiple teams to help with the migration as well. We have GCDA team, we have landing zone team, we have Cloud Migration Factory team. GCDA stands for Global Cloud Design Authority, or you might know it as CCOE or Cloud Office now today. The responsibility of the teams is to provide principle, guideline, and standard, and also to create a safe environment for our developer and engineering teams when they want to land the application in the cloud. We have successfully migrating the WebStack into the cloud. And after we successfully migrate to the clouds, we have learned that the web architecture can be very useful on any workload that we want to migrate into the cloud. Fast forward into 2019, when we scale out our adoptions to multiple environments, or TRIPS program, we have discovered that different teams have a different maturity. And at this point, we acknowledge that web architecture is a key for us to success to migrate into the cloud, and key for us to success on the TRIPS program. Our adoption of web architecture framework starts with the SharePoint, which you see on the left-hand side of the graph. We extract information from web architecture best practice and combine the content with our own policy. And then we ask our user to apply those policies when they create workload within the cloud. Later on, we acknowledge that modern standard we concentrate on infrastructure only and less operational or performance area. At TRIPS program, we make web architecture into next level. We ensure all TRIPS environments have to conduct the web architecture review every 6 months. And we also do this at their account as well, so that the owner of the workloads own their own roadmaps and adjust prioritizations based on the milestones. And they also share their web architecture result to our central web architecture account as well for single view. The graph on the right hand side is an example of KPI view that we have linked from our reporting systems to our web architecture central account. As a result, each owner or stakeholder of the workloads now can see their maturity level, and they can prioritize their capacity accordingly to make it better and to increase their cloud maturity. We have go to the next levels as well. We go one step further. We create platform standard, which is still based on web architecture, but it gives more clarity on what should be configured on all AWS components. The reason we create platform standards to ensure we configure in the same way and easy for integration, especially when you're working with a team of 12 countries and in the event-driven environment as well. One of the great benefits is that we can reuse the same pattern over and over again and make it quicker for our application to the market as well. Today, we have 3 platform standards categories. We have infrastructure, we have application integration, which is also including analytics as well in there, and we also have the security. For example, AWS SNS component, we have standard on how the reliability should work when consumer successfully receiving message from the producer and the message get missing. Today, we have 32 standards and increasing. It helps speed up our developments a lot and a clear message to our developer and engineer community. And that's the end of my presentation. I hope you found it enjoyable and useful.
All right, so we are actually joined over Skype by Ray himself, who is. Where are you, Ray? Actually, are you in the UK?
I'm in Cambridge. Yes, I'm in
Cambridge.
UK in Cambridge. Yeah, so that direction. Yeah. So.
Gotcha. So not quite as far away as we got Kerala or
No. When I see those people from Indians and Turkey, it's very amazing. We suffering raining tears, didn't we?
Yeah, great stuff. Cool. So. I mean, obviously, in the travel industry, you've had a sort of difficult time over the last couple of years. Has that, though? Like, I could imagine that sort of from a technology or infrastructure IT perspective, maybe made your lives a bit easier. Like you're running fewer things, and so you can take stuff down and fiddle with it. Is that fair, or am I completely wrong there?
Yeah, pretty much. You quite right. Basically, we took that opportunity to accelerate some of the programs like TripSpec, for example. We because the plane's down, right? So basically, we took the opportunity to maintain and accelerate, like develop and migrate a lot of applications that we're planning to do for the past few years to be able to accelerate in the past within like 18 months. So which is like great time for ITs, really.
Yeah, I think we've been very lucky, haven't we, as IT people, to be able to continue to work through all of this nonsense, but also to sort of, I guess, take the opportunity of things being not as heavily used to make the changes that we're looking for. So what you're doing is pretty interesting to me, because like my organisation is a consultancy. We work quite a lot with well architected, but obviously we're working with teams who are spread across different companies and who are paying us for our expertise. You are, I guess, inside an organization working with, probably similar numbers of teams, but like they're not paying you. You're sort of showing up and saying, well, we have to do this. This is a requirement. How do you go about, I guess, getting buy-in from, I can't remember how many teams you said you were supporting there, but it sounds like there's a lot of human challenge there as well as technology challenge, right?
It is, you're right. It's a culture change, right? And our ultimate goal is to ensure that the owner of the workloads understands, the meaning of each pillar on the web architecture and also automation. Our aims is to ensure that those the owner of the workloads can conduct the review themselves going forward. So that's the only way to scale, right? So we at first we have like a review some of the workload leading by AWS team, and we have like our team, which is the enabler teams, channel them and learn and practice and have feedback loop and become a very guru. And then that's how we scaled it out. And then we just like have the enabler team to go out and talk to the conduct the review with the workload, the owner of the workload. And the owner of the workloads can be like the architect people, the developer team, or engineering team, that kind of stuff. But the most important thing that what we have cloud champion also sitting on that review as well. So cloud champion is a person that nominates by each domain. So each domain, we have 24 domains. Each domain have to nominate their own cloud champion to be sitting there to ensure that they can apply that best practice that they learn from web architecture and go back to that domain and ensure they apply to that. And then when we also go even further, we have like a cloud community of practice as well, which is like our enablers in there and also the cloud champions in there. The objective is to ensure that to help them with any high risk item that we identify during the result from the web architecture, and help them with remediation tasks, something tangible, right? Something that the team can go back and create a ticket and put into that like a ticket board, right? So that is very key, important to how to scale that out.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that cloud champion thing's very much from the AWS cloud adoption framework playbook, right? The kind of finding people who can care about cloud and want to sort of champion it in the you say domain. What is a domain? I guess in your parlance, is that a sort of a particular area of the business? Is it a particular technology type?
Yes, as we are like moving from like a project to domain type, right? We have like 7 master domains. Spread across 24 domains. 24 domains deliver the services that build up, become trips, right? Become reservation, become inventory, accommodation. So 24 domains that look after each component. For example, to look after reservations, things like that.
Right, and the was this work actually taking workloads from on-premises platforms and moving them into the cloud, or was this a modernization of an existing cloud estate? How did that look?
So we built greenfield. So we built everything from scratch.
Right.
So we like, as you can see from our cloud adoption, we do our first workload, which is like a migrating web stack into the cloud in 2017. We learned that the way you adopt it, we're gonna pick the workload, it's gonna slow, so like a migration, it's a thing that we have to carry on from, from the on-prem as well. So we decided to greenfield, create like for like in cloud. Right. So we have another version in cloud, basically.
Right. And is this were you sort of taking, I guess, existing applications and rewriting them to work in the cloud, or were you
Correct.
sort of,
You're right.
okay? So completely from scratch, the whole thing.
Yes.
That's quite ballsy, isn't it? Like replace the whole thing in one go.
It is. Like I said, we learned from the previous exercise that we do in 2017. It's gonna take us like more than 5 years to migrate everything into cloud. So it will be quicker to create everything the same logic, but create everything that we can. How can I say, modernize the cloud native? We will do. Right. We recreate everything to Lambda, using cluster. Some of the cluster that we had on prem, we just move everything to EKS, the cluster, and using containers a lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you talk a bit about standardization here, and I guess the two ways that I've seen platform teams supporting multiple other delivery teams is one of either, here are our Terraform scripts or our CloudFormation scripts or whatever, go and run those and you'll have an environment, off you go, but don't do anything different and weird because we can't support that. On the other hand, you've got the sort of, you put some guardrails and some safety nets around those teams and you say, okay, you can do anything you like as long as you don't trigger any of these alarms, and if you do, come and talk to us and we'll figure out how to work around that. Where on that spectrum are you with those teams?
Yeah, so the team provide the code to accelerate and provide a safe environment for our application to develop the application, right? So there will be some of the templates that are compulsory that they have to use and they cannot change, right? So the thing that is this is different to guardrail that you can normally apply from SCP, for organization structure from AWS. This is like the code, like for example, the inbound and outbound from from the VPC, number of VPC that you have to use, we are built into clause. Like for example, the availability, availability set up that within your application by default, you have to have that like to availability zone by default, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So they're built in and the team accelerate that for us.
Right, and so the individual teams. Are they taking your CloudFormation or Terraform templates and running those sort of in their own environment? Do you set that up for them and then give them a sort of, give them users that they can play with? What's the kind of handoff there, and how much of that do you run and support versus help them run and support?
So at the very beginnings, we have to hold their hand. We have to, our cloud enabler show them how to use that. So we have the code in our central repository, like standard code repository that everyone have to use it. And also later on, they can check out, branching out from our Git repository, and then they can change, their own code. And then they can check their own code. However, we have the way to check as well that comply to our standards or not. We're using, AWS configs to check and send notification to that account owner straight away. Hey, you guys not comply with the standards. What's going on, right?
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Well, I noticed you mentioned landing zone earlier. Have you been able to kind of move that and sort of adopt control tower and sort of bring everything into control tower, or are you still sort of living with that huge mess of landers and step functions that landing zone was a couple of years ago?
No, the short answer is we are looking to adopt move it to control tower now. I mean, in the next coming months, because we are the very early adoption of the AWS. They don't have control tower at that time. We have to do everything, cloud config, SCP, things like that. We develop our own roles, things like that. So we are, and then we are we aware that some of the stuff we can go much faster with control tower, no doubt, right? So we are looking to adopt that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we've got some customers who are on landing zone because we started building that stuff in the past, and we're now doing a lot of control tower, and we're sort of looking at how do we move from one to the other. It's a bit challenging.
Much faster.
Yes, absolutely, and evolving all the time in a way that we don't ourselves have to invest the time into. It's just the real benefit there.
Exactly that.
So I've got a question here from the Twitch chat. One of the folks who are in India right now, I think. How did you ensure that you didn't suffer functional or performance or observability or serviceability regressions? This is always a bit of a risk when doing an application rewrite.
So if I understand correctly, is how you ensure the performance of your application when you apply the web architecture. Is that right?
So I think the question is more about if you're rewriting applications kind of from scratch, how do you avoid, I guess, losing all of the historical context that you have in those applications around monitoring and performance and so forth? You're sort of starting from scratch with a sort of fresh thing.
Yes. Okay.
What do you sort of move over, and what did you have to leave behind?
So everything that stays on-prem stay as it is. We're not moving any monitoring anything that we use on-prem with us. We start from clean sheet. So we at that time we don't even have like a monitoring system. We're using Datadog at the moment. We stand up like brand new one just for cloud. Mm-hmm. So we also look at the metrics that how they perform. How everything's working in the Datadogs, and compare with the existing one. So that's how we do them, the trace marks and benchmarks and how everything's work and perform. So the answer is we didn't bring anything on-prem because it's too much dependency, and try to tweak the on-prem into the cloud. I think it's a long journey to do. Mm-hmm. So.
And in terms of sort of matching like-for-like functionality, if you've rewritten the applications, do you bring test suites over so that you can tell it's doing the same thing? Like how do you make sure that what you've rebuilt does the same thing as what you had in the on-premise version?
So the way we testing and developing things, if we in the cloud, it have to change because we're dealing with different a component, right? So the way we from dev test to production. The way to release the product is completely different. So we have to learn about the new way of release, the new way to testing and put the pressure, to the performance, everything brand new. So we have one of our platform standard is path to production. So we in the path to production we have to create a standard is in the start from the account structure. Number of account you have, right? For example, dev testing and that, and then it's how the VPC layout, and then how you're gonna test. We have to create everything from scratch.
Gotcha. Yeah, big job.
It is.
Mm-hmm. One more question from the chat from AWS Arch asks, do you use SSO for allowing teams to lay out infrastructure resources in each account? For example, do you generate AWS credentials via SSO?
So we got mix. At the moment, we're using we call it phase 2 of using IAMs at the moment, central account, as authentications, and then for authentication and log on, people log on to the system. They use the IAM most of the time at the moment. We are in the planning state at the moment to migrate into the AWS SSO, right? As you know, that's similar to Control Tower. From the application, it's definitely from day one we're using TUI identity provider. Mm-hmm. So for authentication and authorization, it's no, you cannot get away with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hopefully that answers your question, AWS Arch. I think that's all we have time for today. Ray, thanks for joining us on the call. Interesting to hear about TUI's journey, which I guess still has a way to go. Like, how long do you expect to be still in this kind of phase of work?
So we launch the application phase by phase. We do fly only and package only, and we also have soft launch as well. So we are successful. The trip itself very successful. Deploy not just the application that we build, and also the team that we have as well, and the knowledge that we are training people, and people gain. Some of the stuff when we start in trip, people have zero knowledge about cloud, zero knowledge about AWS. That is a value for us a lot.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we almost there. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. It sounds like a big job. I think the bringing a huge number of people along on that ride, like having them rethink how they're building things, what they're responsible for, is quite an undertaking. So kudos. It's a good lump of work. Thank you, Ray. We will
Thank you so much.
let you go and move on to our next speaker. Thanks, Ray. Via, in fact, I'm going to talk again about the raffle, which some of you may already have entered. The rest of you, if you have not yet entered the raffle, I am about to put the. Find the button for it. My laptop's gone to sleep. A second. There we go. The sponsors prize draw. You can use the QR code there, and you can also use the raffle code that I have just shared in the Twitch chat. If you are interested in winning an Echo or Echo Dot, please do bear in mind if you're entering, we can only send those out to UK addresses. So do make sure that you can either receive it at your home in the UK, or that there's someone in the UK who would be willing to take a delivery and forward it on for you. If you win one of those, then of course you can say things like, Alexa, turn out the lights, which I can say now that loudly because I'm no longer in a room that's got an Amazon Echo in it. Hope that didn't actually put any of you in the dark, or do I? Well, maybe I do enjoy that level of power. Who knows? Great. So our next speaker this evening is an AWS employee himself. I have written down some things over here. Hold on just a second. Thomas is a solutions architect at AWS, primarily helping customers in the power and utilities industry. Thomas is passionate about sustainability and ensuring we have a planet to live on for future generations. He's always up for a chat about sustainability of cloud workloads. So do, after the talk today, feel free to get in touch, either LinkedIn or by email, which you can probably, I think they're in his slide somewhere. If not, I'm sure he'll share some contact details in the Twitch chat as we go. Let's hear now from Thomas.
Hello AWS User Group, it's great to be talking to you this evening about a topic that's really important to all of us, and that is sustainability. I'm Thomas Attree, I'm a solutions architect at AWS with a day-to-day focus with power and utilities customers, but with a heavy interest in sustainability. So with introductions over, let's get into it. Okay, so it's important to note that sustainability touches everyone, and multiple sectors of society have expressed interest in sustainability and using it as a measure for what companies they'll work with, what companies they'll invest in, and what ultimately companies will buy from. And additionally, socially responsible investing or impact investing, along with ESG, environmental, social and governance criteria, they now appear regularly in the media and in investment prospectuses, in annual reports, and interest levels reaching all-time high for sustainability data from companies in 2020. Recent data from Morningstar that showed that global assets in sustainable funds hit $1.25 billion in the third quarter of 2020, which was a record high and has only grown since. So whether it's a company mission statement, whether it's a board directive, whether it's investor pressure or consumer pressure or regulatory pressure, sustainability really is a hot topic at the C-level with many customers that we're working with, and likely your own companies too. So let's get onto something that you're likely already familiar with, and that's the shared responsibility model for security. And you may have seen this before, where AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud, and customers are responsible for the security in the cloud. So for example, AWS is responsible for the physical security of data centers and managed services, and customers are responsible for the network firewall configurations within their VPCs, using managed services and to encrypt them. But this is a sustainability talk, not a security talk. Well, we can apply that same concept of a shared responsibility to sustainability. So if we look at the model on the slide, At the top half of that model, that's the customer responsibility. So that's about making architectural decisions. That's about selecting and using the correct services for the job, and determining which code is running and how efficiently that code is executing. And on the bottom half, on the green part of that diagram, I'll move into it for you, we can see AWS's responsibility of the cloud, of the sustainability of the cloud. And this covers things like the way that AWS designs buildings, designs rooms, designs servers, and takes care of it from construction all the way through to recycling of those assets. It covers the way that AWS purchases the energy and ensure that energy and other resources that we use, such as water for cooling, are used efficiently. And lastly, it covers AWS service teams and how they run the managed services and optimize them for sustainability by increasing or maximizing the overall utilization of the underlying resources that are providing them. But we're not going to be focusing on the sustainability of the cloud in today's talk. We're really going to be looking at sustainability in the cloud and how you as a customer can optimize your own workloads. But to that point, I did want to highlight a few key points on AWS's journey into sustainability. So we've put measures in place to utilize the increasing amounts of renewable energy sources that we're onboarding. We've introduced water conservation practices at certain sites around the world. And we're also producing our AWS ARM processors, so our custom silicon like Graviton, but also our chips like Trainium and Inferentia. And that all contributes towards a lower overall energy utilization. But I want to focus on what customers can do with their responsibility and what information and data and metrics customers need in your hands to make sustainability decisions. So at reInvent, we launched the reInvent just gone. We launched the customer carbon footprint tool that was announced at reInvent, I should say, and it recently just went GA. And that's available to everyone now, every customer within their billing dashboard. And this information is really good. It's really good for giving us that directly measurable CO2 equivalent of emissions of running our workloads in AWS. That's fantastic. It's really good for reporting, and it's scientifically, methodologically proven data. So we can use that for our audit reports. That's great. And it can give us a really good indication of what to address in our workloads, and especially around region selection. So the pie chart in the middle for my diagram that is on the screen is all blue. Mainly because the bulk of the workloads that I have in this account that I grabbed this screenshot from run in EMEA, which is a much greener region for us at the moment in Ireland. I'll explain that in a second. But if you're running workloads across Americas, across EMEA and across APAC, you'll likely find that those workloads in APAC will have a slightly higher CO2 emission number, and that's all down to the energy and carbon intensity of the grids that are powering the data centers on those energy grids. So whilst we can use this data usefully, it shouldn't be considered as the single source of truth for making operational and architectural decisions. Another reason for this is because the data that you'll see in this tool is 3 months delayed. And that's down to the time it takes to collect and process the carbon intensity data from our energy partners. So how can you make more faster decisions on your workloads? Coming back to the region thing and why this one is all blue. It's likely because the workloads that I have in this account are mainly in EUS1, And EU West 1, that's Ireland, is one of 5 regions where AWS purchases and retires environmental attributes like renewable energy credits and guarantees of origin to cover the non-renewable energy that we use. And the other regions are at US West, Oregon, GovCloud, Europe, Frankfurt, Canada, Canada Central, I should call out, and Europe, Ireland. But we plan on powering our operations with 100% renewable energy by 2025. So now the customer carbon footprint tool is available to you in your own AWS accounts. I encourage you to go and look at them in your own accounts. You'll be able to find those in the billing console. So looking back at the customer responsibility, how can we make workload-based decisions on the topics that are covered? Think about how you do this for security too, or maybe for cost optimization. One might conduct a review on those topics. And a key way of understanding your existing workload and how it fares against best practices is by conducting an AWS well-architected review. Hopefully you've conducted one of these for your workloads already, or you're familiar with well-architected already as well. And at reInvent, Werner, in his keynote, announced this sustainability pillar. So the 6th pillar to be announced as part of the well-architected framework. And that's to complement alongside, so it's not standalone, it's not a lens that we apply, it's a first-class citizen pillar of the well-architected review that sits alongside cost optimization, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and operational excellence. And the sustainability pillar is really there to help you achieve 3 goals, right? It's to understand the impact of those services that you're using. It's to quantify those impacts through the entire workload lifecycle, and to apply best practices to reduce those impacts. When you apply those best practices, we've broken those best practices down into 5 best practice themes. So we focus on user behavior, software and architecture choices, hardware choices, data, and how and what your development and deployment patterns are for your applications. So the white paper is now available at the link on the slide. The term sustainability is a broad field covering social, economic, and environmental aspects. And we focus on environmental aspects in the well-architected pillar, especially energy consumption and efficiency. And it's an important lever that architects have to improve and reduce resource usage. So how can you improve? How can you improve your workloads? Well, the answer really is how you always have, especially with things like the cost and performance efficiency pillars that you might be familiar with. The well-architected pillar for sustainability outlines an iterative process, and it's similar to how customers have been improving for cost or performance for decades, right? You need to be aware of your goals, or at least set them. What are your sustainability goals? And what are your current performance against sustainability KPIs? You might not even have any sustainability KPIs yet, but it's important to set them, and it's important to then use this process to identify the metrics that you're going to need to meet those KPIs. So first of all, set a goal for your company, and then look at for all of the workloads that you can optimize. Then you prioritize the workloads by which will have the biggest impact, for which you'll need data and metrics. And those workloads or changes that will have that will be a good investment in terms of time for optimization as well. Next, you can hypothesize, what can you optimize for the workload? Can I change the processor to Graviton? Or can I implement auto-scaling? Does this instance need to be on all of the time? Or can I perform that work as a batch process? Or can I rewrite components in a more efficient language, such as Rust? And those hypotheses then need to be qualified and prioritised by how long they'll take, how much they'll cost, what risks are associated with them, etc. Then you can experiment, measure the impact, roll back if the outcome is not desirable, or deploy the change to production. Then move on to the next hypothesis, iterating through that process as you go. And through working with customers, we found that they're really good at optimization, right? They've been optimizing inside and outside of the cloud for many years. And as long as you can provide a metric to an engineer, they tend to be able to optimize the workload towards that particular metric. But what would be a good metric to optimize for sustainability? Well, there are a few that are useful for optimizations, and we call these proxy metrics. They're aligned broadly around utilization of storage, network, and compute. So cost can also be considered, but it sometimes can be a poor proxy metric for sustainability because of differing pricing models, where a pricing model doesn't necessarily match utilization. So, and different pricing models across regions as well. So it wouldn't discriminate, for example, between a really heavily used or really heavily utilized EC2 instance and an idle EC2 instance, for example. So in that case, cost would not be an ideal proxy metric, and perhaps CPU utilization would be a better one. These metrics compete with one another, right? So data transfer and storage compete with one another. Do you go multi-region and then trade off the retransfer of data across those regions for availability as well, and redundancy? Compute and storage might compete with one another. Would you pre-calculate big data aggregates versus recompute them? Compute and data transfer, they would compete with each other as well around rendering at the edge, for example. So when you select a metric to optimize for, you'll actually be selecting many as they compete with each other. Think about a use case for generating thumbnails for uploaded user content. Maybe you could generate that thumbnail at upload time. And you could then store that thumbnail in storage somewhere. But if that video or content that you're creating that thumbnail for is never requested, then you're storing that thumbnail unnecessarily. And that's taking up space on a storage, on a hard disk somewhere. Or you could generate that thumbnail when the source content is requested. Now that would duplicate the compute work every time that video is or other piece of content is requested, but it minimizes the storage. So you can think about the trade-off in that respect with that use case. Optimizing for these metrics also competes with traditional non-functional requirements, such as availability or data retention policies. An example here would be using an application deployed on EC2 servers across two availability zones. If one instance were to fail, your application can be served by the EC2 instance in the second availability zone, therefore keeping availability high. But it trades off utilization, as those two instances are unlikely to be running at a high load while still having the capacity to absorb the additional load of the failed instance. So when you're selecting metrics to optimize for sustainability, you also need to be aware of the non-functional requirements of the application or workload and determine where you can make that trade-off. We need to avoid the pitfall of thinking that we're just looking at resources. So when your usage is the same, but your user base is decreasing, that's a cause for alarm. So hence you should factor in your business metrics to measure efficiencies at a resources unit of work level. And that could be something like vCPUs per connected vehicle mile, or megabytes of storage per customer. And that way you can normalize your KPIs to compare them over time to measure your improvements against sustainability or for sustainability. You also need to establish dashboards with KPIs at a team level, so each application team can own their own goals and work on optimizations independently. And this here is just one way to do this. Most of you are already familiar with AWS cost and usage reports. I hope for the sake of cost showbacks. And as the name implies, it's also a great resource also for your usage, to find out what your usage is of resources. And you can combine the cost and usage reports with further metrics from Amazon CloudWatch and business metrics from your company and query them with Amazon Athena. And then you can start to establish a dashboard with a few KPIs in QuickSight. And start with KPIs for which you have a really large influence in the shared responsibility model. So for example, EC2 compute resources, and then experiment based on feedback by application teams. Now, we have customers doing this already, and one of which is Scania, the heavy truck manufacturer. And during an internal hackathon, Scania developed a set of sustainability KPIs to the application level. And the team then worked alongside AWS or with AWS to determine how those KPIs could then be measured through AWS usage reports and service metrics alongside business data. Scania, ultimately, they're looking at creating an efficiency rating for Scania IT solutions to enable the most sustainable IT system possible within the company. And to help customers kick off this process of data collection and analysis, we've developed an AWS well-architected lab, which guides customers through the process of turning those cost and usage reports into efficiency reports. So this lab is live. You can go and see it now on the well-architected lab site and run through it yourself. And by completing that lab, what you would be doing is collecting usage information through the cost and usage reports. You'll be loading that data into Athena and beginning to query and create proxy metrics for sustainability to create efficiency scores. Those efficiency scores that you could then extrapolate into KPIs or use them as your KPIs. And that lab allows customers to bring your own assumptions for sustainability, as well as some ready-made queries. And I say assumptions, that might be something like you might apply a cleaner score for Graviton-based instances or workloads that are heavily reliant on Graviton, for example, over workloads that aren't Graviton-based, because we know that running Graviton EC2 instances have a lower watt performance than other manufacturers of processors on our EC2 platform. Or you might apply a cleaner score for resources that are deployed in one of those 5 regions that I mentioned earlier, where we use renewable energy. So understanding what you know about sustainability in the cloud and bringing that to your own workloads through the use of proxy metrics is the key takeaway from that well-architected lab. And I really encourage you to go and have a look at that for yourselves. So as a bit of a call to action for those of you listening, look, check out the customer carbon footprint tool in your AWS accounts. It's there, the data is available to you to give you a really good indication at a really high level of what to look for and where it might be, where your focus might be directed. I'd then encourage you to go and have a look at the well-architected sustainability pillar and how you can apply that to your workloads, carry out a well-architected review, perhaps, for the sustainability pillar itself. Really identify your workload sustainability goals. So once you perhaps run that well-architected review, understand what it is you want to change. What is it that you want to go after that would have the biggest impact in terms of sustainability? And then use that well-architected lab as that starting point for collecting metrics to help you meet those goals and the KPIs you've set through those goals. And reach out to your AWS team if you need assistance in running or through one of those AWS well-architected reviews for sustainability. We're available to help you out. If you want to talk sustainability more generally, reach out to us, and we can have those conversations. So thank you for your time this evening. I look forward to answering your questions a little bit later on in the Q&A session. Thanks.
And thanks, Tom, who is joining us right now from, where are you, Tom?
Well, not so sunny Southend today, but yeah.
Southend, lovely. By the sea? Are you actually by the sea there?
Yeah.
Marvelous.
Yeah, by the sea.
Marvellous. Probably nicer at different times of year than this one. Cool. So some good stuff there on sustainability. I'm a little cynical about sustainability things in as far as I don't believe that the capitalist system is set up to encourage people to think about spending time and money on solving this problem. You mentioned Scania. Like, what are the types of organisations that you're seeing who are investing that? Because there's obviously no immediate profit gain from saving the environment, right?
Of course, yeah. I think you're right in that I think there are some economic models that may need to change for sustainability on the whole, but we're seeing customers from a broad range of industries work with AWS to further their own sustainability ambitions. And whether that's customers that have signed up to the Climate Pledge, which has reached over 300 signatories this week, across varying sectors, right from retail to manufacturing to consumer goods. It really comes down to what's the customer, what are those customers' goals, and what have they signed up to from a regulatory point of view? What are they obligated for from a regulatory point of view? But what have they signed up for from an ambition perspective as well?
Yeah. So there's a sort of, I guess there's an increasing number of people talking about this in general. So people will be sort of swept up in that and probably invest partly for image, I suppose, in some cases. But if that's what they need to do in order to solve the climate crisis, then let's keep hounding them to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is an element of there's definitely a lot more focus on it from board level decision makers that we've seen with customers this year.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So on that journey to generating more sustainability, making workloads more sustainable, I suppose I should say. I guess you as an AWS person have had access to some of this carbon data maybe a little earlier than we have as customers. So you've maybe seen this journey for a little longer. What are the things typically that customers find difficult about? I guess moving to Graviton or taking an application and breaking it down into lambdas, for example, so that it's using less compute. What are the things that tend to be hard?
Yeah, I think the thing that tends to be difficult from an architecture perspective is starting to accept. It's the acceptance of treating sustainability as a non-functional requirement. So like we have previously with ensuring that we've got the right level of availability. We've got the right level of disaster recovery mechanisms built into an application. Now customers are really starting to think about, okay, how are we building this application in a way in which is sustainable? And one way customers are finding that a bit challenging, as I touched on in the talk, is actually defining that resource unit of work. So what is it that actually the real root of what your application is trying to deliver, right? And whether that is in Scania's example, vCPU hours per connected vehicle mile, which is a great metric for trying to reduce, right? Because if you're reducing the amount of compute that you're doing in the back end for every mile your vehicle travels, it's a really directly measurable metric to reduce. But they can be really difficult to define. And I think Scania had potentially had a bit of an easier ride trying to define that metric. And customers, I think finding it a bit tricky to actually define what those resource unit of works are. But your question about moving to Graviton, we're finding customers are actually finding that journey relatively easy. especially if they're using languages and libraries that already have compiled binaries for ARM, and they're getting huge efficiency and cost savings from moving to Graviton 2. And similarly with Lambda functions being able to switch over to the ARM architecture pretty much with an API call now. Again, if your code and your dependencies are ARM compatible, of course. There may be a bit of work involved if they're not.
And are you seeing teams, I guess, fairly readily changing language environments? Even like I think I can't remember whether your slides had this, but I've seen recently a sort of league table of language versus efficiency with things like Python and Ruby and like all the things that are really easy to write at the top, and then like Rust right down the bottom using sort of very little CPU power at all. But teams tend to be quite religious about their stack choices, and it can be difficult to sort of move the needle on that. What are you seeing in that sort of landscape?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the report that you're referring to, yeah, it's a big change to make, right? To change your programming language and environment is a big scary change to make, and not one that a lot of customers want to make necessarily, or see the benefit to make that change for. But what I can say to that is that AWS is investing very heavily in Rust at the moment. We're writing a lot of the core components for services in Rust, and when you're changing services to the scale in which AWS is deploying them at, every tiny incremental improvement that you can eke out has a huge cumulative effect over all of the servers that change is deployed to across all of our regions, availability zones, etc. So if we can eke out every single instruction on a or cycle on a CPU or on our servers by changing the programming language to a lower level language like Rust that has a little bit more security than C, we're really starting to see that underlying overall utilization benefit that I touched on in the presentation.
Gotcha. So for organisations like Amazon, it makes sense because of the scale that you're operating at, but maybe makes less sense for a SaaS vendor or maybe Scania are doing this. I don't know.
I think the answer is always it depends, right? I think it's important to be heads up about new languages whenever or new in the field when it comes up, and when there is evidence to suggest that language can perform faster. I think customers should be cognizant of the benefits that it could bring.
Yeah. The it depends answer, very familiar to me as a consultant. It's the classic answer to all questions in the consultancy realm is it depends. What are you trying to do?
Yeah. There's trade-offs involved, right?
Of course, yeah. So I'm just going over to the Twitch chat. Ginge Fringe TFT, a first-time chatter, is asking a question that I don't quite follow because I think he pasted that during as you were talking. So Ginge, if you'd like to reframe your question, I guess, so that it makes a bit more sense outside of the context of what Tom was talking about at the time you post, then I will ask him that and we'll get the details. Conatsat22 says, essentially focusing on 5 well-architected pillars where we can have measurable KPIs will indirectly measure the sustainability pillar too, though, won't it? Carbon footprint KPI isn't something that we can all connect to immediately. It must be complex to calculate and understand in a way how much effort is needed to swing that number to some target. It's a good start. I think it was interesting to me, like and my team, as we looked at the new sustainability pillar, how much of it was essentially kind of cherry picked a little bit from other parts of well architected things like reduction of cost in that sort of landscape is likely also to result in greater sustainability because lower cost is probably the result of using fewer things, and there was a lot of kind of relationship with the rest of well architected.
So cost can be a good indicator for sustainability, especially where the cost of the service that you're using is directly tied to the utilization of the service. So something like storage could be a useful one for EBS, for example. If you're using less block storage, you're using less you've provisioned less or fewer megabytes of underlying hardware. Where cost doesn't make sense is like the EC2 example. It doesn't discriminate between a really heavily used EC2 instance and an EC2 instance that's sitting there at 2% idling. So that's where you might want to start looking at other pillars. At other metrics. But there are synergies with the sustainability pillar and the other pillars of the well-architected review. Performance optimization is a key one, right? So if you can optimize your application for performance, but also by doing that, maximizing the utilization of the underlying resources, which also incorporates cost most of the time, you can see where that does start to blend. But I think where the sustainability pillar really puts the focus on it is in those 5 domains of the best practice. And yeah, I recommend just going to have a look at those, having a read through those 5 domains of the pillar, to how they might apply to your workload. It applies more focus on it for sustainability than might be covered or might not be covered by the other pillars in the well-architected framework. Yeah,
understood. So I guess the other thing that I don't know if you have more details on, but when you're talking about the sustainability metrics for different regions being sort of higher or lower based on kind of how that energy is generated. You mentioned, I think, buying carbon certificates or energy certificates of some sort. Now, is my understanding therefore correct that for many regions, AWS is using non-green, non-renewable energy sources, but sort of offsetting that by sort of some kind of double entry bookkeeping relating to carbon use? Is that how that works right now? And the aim by 2025 is to not do that because you don't have to, because you're using renewables for everything.
Yeah, so we don't share the energy mix of data, the energy mix data for specific regions. All water in our regions at the moment. There are those 5 regions that I mentioned where, like I say, we do purchase and retire the environmental attributes. So using renewable energy credits and guarantees of origin for renewable energy where we are using that. And that's US West, Oregon, GovCloud, Frankfurt, Canada Central, and Ireland. Amazon's ambitions, this is not AWS, Amazon is on a path to have renewable powered operations by 2025. So that's not just an AWS statement, that's Amazon wide, and that's been brought forward from 2030 as well.
So I guess what you're saying is there's a lot of the information about energy consumption by region is sort of opaque to us as users. We can see sort of relative scoring and some stuff in the tool, but the actual I couldn't as a user point at my workload and go, this percentage of this workload is being powered by non-renewable energy sources over this period of time or whatever.
Yeah, we don't go to that level of granularity or detail right now. So the other great source for customers to use to make assumptions about the energy grids that we operate in are the 451 reports that we've had conducted independently, which show the benefit of moving to the cloud, which shows an 80% energy carbon saving from moving to the cloud from running on premises. And there's 3 reports. One was done for the Americas region, one for Europe, and one for APAC. And essentially there's 3 because the carbon makeup of the grids in those regions is very different. So depending on where you're using the cloud or operating a workload, or where your users are based, is very dependent on the intensity of the energy that's going to be coming in.
Right, and so in which of those regions, off the top of your head, obviously, is there the most difference in moving from on-prem to cloud in terms of sustainability and energy mix?
Off the top of my head, wouldn't be able to recall.
Okay.
But I have to get back to you on that one.
Sure. Yeah, no, just kind of interesting. I guess if you're selling the benefits of the cloud, but those benefits vary greatly across regions, it's sort of interesting to look at the comparison. Sorry to put you on the spot. That's that's what the Q&A session is sometimes for. So you're a solutions architect within AWS. You're working with power and utilities. What's exciting to you at the moment? What are you what was great to see at reInvent? What are you hoping to see later in the year? What will help your customers the most?
Yeah, I think what's really exciting to me at the moment is the proliferation of new renewable energy sources on the grid, especially within the UK. Right, so onboarding brand new wind farms, brand new solar cells, or solar arrays, as well as the concept of prosumers that have solar on their roof, maybe a Tesla Powerwall as well. But the challenges that brings in terms of demand and in terms of production load is actually quite a challenge for the infrastructure to be able to manage the frequency, to keep the frequency at correct. Mm-hmm. So from an AWS point of view, I'm really excited about some of the IoT data streaming services that we've got coming through to understand, where's that load coming from? Where do we need to turn things on? Where do we need to turn things off? And using the IoT service family of services again to actually make those adjustments to that kit that's in the field. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's turning a wind farm off. Right. Because we're generating too much power for the demand at the time. Uh-huh. So I'm really excited about a lot of that at the moment.
Yeah, sounds good. Like I guess a field in which a lot of change is happening, right? In the sort
huge
of
amount.
I've got colleagues who do have solar panels. One who's very sort of up on electric vehicles and all the kind of mechanics of that. It's quite interesting. I'm going to be buying a house in the next year or so, and so that's going to be on my mind. Is like, how can I invest in those sorts of things as we move in order to reduce our impact on the environment as we go forward. So Tom, thanks for joining us. Are you going to be at the summit in the end of April?
I will be. Yeah, I should be speaking at the summit as well with one of my customers. So have a look out for the power and utilities track, and you might see me on stage.
Great stuff. I will be there. I'm not going to be on stage. I think one of my colleagues is talking about certification. Sandra, who was on this stream last time actually, but maybe we'll get to catch up in person and raise a glass together. Thanks, Tom. Great having you on the stream, and we'll see you again.
Thanks, John.
Cool. Cheers. That's Thomas talking all about sustainability. So we're getting towards the end of today's stream. I'm going to, as a sort of first pass, go and find the raffle winners, which I believe are now on my screen over here, which I'm about to share with you over there. There we go, raffle winners. The first place winner of an Echo is Taran Chowdhury. Second place and third place, both winning Echo Dots. That's Luke Burnip and Leslie Cleary-Lee. Paul is going to be in touch with you tomorrow in order to arrange the ordering and delivery of those. Hopefully you listen to my warnings and you are based in the UK or able to take a delivery in the UK for shipping elsewhere. Otherwise, you're going to be a little sad about the state of your Echoes. So well done. Thanks for entering the prize draw this evening. Don't forget to fill out the attendee survey. Paul has shared the link in the chat there. I'm going to have a QR code for it shortly as well. A big thanks to our sponsors, as ever, Deloitte, eSynergy and Sainsbury's Tech for their support of the meetup group. And also a big thanks to Paul, Nat, Jonas, Yo-Yu and Ijaz, who are all somewhere involved in the background of making this thing happen, all the way sort of in between the last stream and tonight. night. They've done most of the hard work. I just do a bit of video editing and some presenting, but they're wrangling speakers and making sure everyone's got what they need. So thanks, guys. It's great to have your support behind the entire feed. Our next meetup will be on the 18th of May. I believe that will also be an online meetup, unless you hear otherwise. You can, of course, in the meantime, follow us on our various socials. Paul's just shared the links into the stream chat. He's making up for lost time. He was out at a meeting from 6, so he's just sort of coming in to juggle the prize winners and paste some links in. Hope it was a successful meeting for you, Paul. It was unnerving to be sharing stuff in the chat as well as presenting, but I think it worked out okay. You can, if you didn't get the link on the feed there, follow the link from that QR code. We would love to hear how you found this evening, what worked for you, what didn't, what topics would you like to hear more about. In fact, we tend to put on the topics for which we have people offering to speak, but if there are any particular topics that you would like to see covered in more detail that we haven't really talked about in recent months, then please do let us know, and we will do our best to find speakers who can cover those topics, whether that means dragging people out of their offices and in front of cameras to make them do it, or whether we can dangle a carrot of internet fame and fortune to do that. But do let us know. Thank you very much. It's now the end of the stream. I'm going to be at the AWS Summit in London, which is on the 27th, I believe, of April. So if you are also going to be there and you'd like to say hello, do get in touch with me. Probably LinkedIn is the best way to do that, or my work email address, which is pretty easy to guess for anyone who knows where I work. Which actually you all do, because it's currently written on the screen there, and we will cross paths at that summit. Thank you very much. Let's be well, be lucky, stay healthy, stay washing your hands and all the other things that we're doing. Thank you very much. I will see you again next time. Cheers.